Okay, we are recording and live streaming when you are ready, Mr. Chairman.
It is 11 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Isabella County Board of Commissioners, Finance and Administration Committee to order. So we have the agenda before us. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Then we'll take that as a tax approval of the agenda. We'll do a call to the public. I know all these faces. And there's nobody online?
There is no one on the line at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Then we're gonna move ahead. We have another opportunity later in the meeting for the call to the public.
We got one.
Nope, just wants the agenda, wants to know.
No, actually, I will make a public comment. I think there's an item on here that, I personally would like to see. I would like to see at a minimum that it is either tabled or not move forward to the Board of Commissioners, and that would be on the, discussion regarding the wage implementation policy. I understand it's a discussion, but, I would like to see that it does not move, on any more of a discussion than, just stay within committee. I think that we've had so much issue, department-wide with the study itself that, I think it's in the fact that the county does not have, or appear to have funding to be able to implement in any way, shape, or form on that study. My personal feeling would be that I would like to see it stay at committee, and I understand it's your decisions there, but as a department head, I just, I can't see how any kind of an implementation would be considered over the next few years, looking at, the county's finances.
Thank you. Sure. Any other public comment?
Might as well. So I just wanted to quickly address the wage study implement policy. And with a reminder about something that I spoke at the August 6th, 2024 meeting. And that was a reminder of something that was said at the November 7th, 2023 meeting. And you may not remember exactly what that was, so I will remind you. So back then, there was a decision made to reclassify some positions while we waited for others that were in the proposed 2024 budget, the proposed changes. And we were told that we needed to wait while we had the wage classification study. But we were also told on November 7th, when some changes were made, that special consideration was going to be given to, would be given to those positions on this list that had not received wages, the increase in wages, if the wage classification proved that they should be moved up. And so I wanted to put that reminder out before we got started on that. Also, I know there was some discussion about paying in out of other funds, that if the wage classification proved that someone should be raised, but the general fund, if the funds could be paid out of something other than general fund, that maybe that would be considered. I'm sure you're all aware of Bonnie Toski, who is with Cole Stoker and Toski. She rendered a legal opinion on that at a MARD conference in September 17th of 2024. Her opinion, trying to find it on here. Oops, went one page too far. So the question was, can county commissioners grant raises after a wage study showing disparities based on what fund the wage will be paid out of instead of the disparities? Her answer was, it is not legal. So I just wanted to bring that forward before we get any further into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seats warmed up now. I guess we have no other public comment at this point, so we'll move to item number 4, which is considering budget amendment 2025-03 to increase the fiscal year 25 budget to account for annual temporary location expenses, rent, storage, and utilities, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
Okay, so this budget amendment represents the annual cost of our temporary spaces. So our 510 West and 614 West Pickards and our downtown Broadway address, as well as all of our storage units. We have a number of them. This is the annualized cost of that. So it wasn't built into fiscal 25 budget because our thought process that we've been moving towards is bonding towards the renovation project. And these costs were to be rolled into that. Now that looks like not moving forward, certainly at this point. And last round, you approved the extension of the 1-year lease for our Pickard spaces and the Broadway Street spaces. We need to build that into the budget. So that's, like I said, just shy of 280,000. And the only place for that to come is fund balance. There's not anything to cut, especially this early in the fiscal year. I wouldn't recommend cutting any of the expenses that we have budgeted. I can only recommend this coming from fund balance. So are there any questions about this budget amendment?
So the contract does include utilities as part of that, or we pay those separate?
We pay those separately.
And this is enough to cover the contract and the utilities?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Melissa.
Good.
So this covers 510, 614 rent. That's 205,000. Broadway rent, 42,000. There's numbers at the end of these, but they're close. We have 6 storage units, 5 of them. At $70 a piece. It's $4,200 a year. One at $120, $1,400 a year. We have consumers and DTE at both 510 and 614. The utilities are included for Broadway. We do not pay utilities at the PA's office. So that's consumers and DTE. For a whole year. Consumers, I have approximately $9,600 for 510, $4,800 for 614. DTE is $1,800 for 510, and $1,200 for 614. Wind Telecom and Verizon for our internet and anything we need at about $8,000 for the entire year. So that comes up to 278. 594, 280,000 is what I did the budget amendment for.
Okay. And do we need to do amendment for the prosecuting attorney's quarters?
That's the Broadway space.
That's Broadway, $42,000 a year.
Oh, okay, so this is
All inclusive.
okay. All right. Further discussion or comments, questions?
We gotta do.
Appreciate getting this housekeeping done. I will make the motion to move to the work session, the consideration of approving budget amendment 2025-03 to increase the fiscal year 25 budget to account for temporary annual location expenses to be rent, storage, and utilities, and authorize the board person to sign. That'll be moved to the work session next week.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward.
Okay, so
Next item,
another budget amendment.
consider approving budget amendment 2025 4 to increase the fiscal year 25 budget for the county's cash match on the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility project and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. Now you can go ahead.
So this one, this represents, as we know, originally the substantial completion date on the jail, December 19th of this year. So we always anticipated a little bit of activity in fiscal 25 on this project, but we weren't sure how much. And as you know, the schedule did get moved out to the end of January 2025. So what this does is build into the general fund budget our cash match that we still have expected on on Clark's portion, right? Every time we pay a bill to Clark, the USDA loan covers 88% of it, and we have a 12% match on that. This also, in addition to the USDA and Clark's invoices to us, this also covers our portion of the ledger. You know, sheriff's come to you, he's utilized a lot of that furniture budget, but this would also be the remainder of that budget so that we have the cash should we need it for the remainder of that. So it's just building it into the general fund budget, and the board has already committed fund balance dollars towards that project, right? We knew it was a $48 million project, $41.5 million borrow. So you've long committed funds, and that's why you see this coming, yes, from fund balance, but specifically from fund balance committed to the sheriff's office and correctional facility.
That's a specific line item.
Yes, yes. And then at audit time, we'll adjust that amount well, no, not committed. The board has to adjust that.
If we're using the committed though,
Then it just
I don't
becomes a
think-
zero at
it,
audit
it,
time.
it reduces. Yeah, they commit that amount, but if we're using that as the project goes on,
Would just tick off.
I would believe so, but I will look into that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that until now. If it's spent, then obviously it's not there anymore, right?
Right.
It wouldn't be committed. Yeah, just like here, as we're spending it, we're taking it out of that committed.
So if we have to take action at the meeting, can we do the amendment and then take the action on moving from committed? Is that what you're saying to this?
No, actually, what I was thinking about is how this is gonna be reflected in the audit for fiscal 24, honestly. Because the fiscal 23 audit had maybe 3.5 million-ish committed towards this project. I
Okay.
wondered if any action had to be taken by the board to change that amount in the audit. Finance Director Melissa Franquist tells us that by action of spending it, it'll come out of that committed fund balance. So I
believe,
think
but I'm
it
gonna
might
double
happen
check
automatically, but yeah, she'll check into it.
Okay,
with the auditors.
More for how it's reflected in your financial statements.
She'll let us know if action is necessary.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And if it is required, it would have had to have been done by September 30 of 2024
oops,
for last audit, right? So for the committed portion, so I would think you've got until probably September 30th of 2025 to adjust it for fiscal 25.
Yes.
Fund balance committed takes board action, and you would have had to have done that by fiscal end.
okay. Would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I'd like to make the motion to move to the work session, consideration for approving budget amendment number 2025-04 to increase the fiscal year 25 budget for the county's cash match on the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility project and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
I will support that. It's been moved and supported to approve move the budget amendment 2025-04 to the work session next week. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed. It moves forward. Next item, consider approving budget amendment 2025-05 to increase the fiscal year 25 budget for administration, building, architect, design contract, and construction management fee, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. So we've had professionals working on the project and have been making payments for those services, and this is the budget amendment that we need to cover that.
It is, and this would cover the increase in the Spicer cost. Remember when they brought the change orders forward? One of those was looking at the existing sheriff's office and correctional facility to see if those first floor spaces, that 10,000 square foot, would be better utilized than a third floor in the county building, right? So when you approve that change order, we did not bring a budget amendment forward at that time. This is what was built into the budget. I don't think we built anything into the budget for Spicer.
No, I think we thought timing wise of everything.
It would be in the
same with
bond.
First amendment that it would be further along than.
Yeah.
Rolled into.
So this will cover services that Spicer's already been approved to perform. Obviously, with the vote of your recent special meeting, I'll reach out to Spicer to let them know not to continue. Yes, I'll talk to him about where he's at with things and see. I know we've got him working on a preliminary floor plan of what all 3 floors would look like. That work's already been directed. I think that's something that you're probably gonna wanna see in your information gathering. But they won't do any in-depth stuff on the jail at this point, right? They'll wait to get further direction now from the board. But this does, so the 100,000 for Spicer, this does include $26,500. That's for Spence Brothers. And while the motion reads construction management fee, I'd like to have you consider amending it. We really should amend it for next week's meeting. This has nothing to do with construction management by Spence. You tabled that contract. This 26.5 is for pre-construction services. So that motion should be changed to reflect that.
So we still owe the 26, but that is,
We don't have an agreement with them, but I think professionally, it's always been known they were brought to the table to give us budget guidance. They've performed this work. They've given us cost estimates based on, the either square footage or the plans that Spicer gave them. We brought them to the table. So we don't have a contract for services, so we probably could fight it, but I think they would have a very good argument that we're on the hook for these. It's even, part of the discussion of if we do move forward with a construction management contract with them, that maybe they would excuse the 26.5 in pre-construction services. There could be that conversation, I think, to be had with them, but as for now, it's work that we directed and they performed.
Okay. Yeah.
so we should leave it in the budget.
I would
amendment.
leave it in to be safe, yes. Maybe we can negotiate something successful with Spence Brothers to pull that out if and when the project moves forward.
I think the information's good, and I'm hoping the chairman sets up a citizens committee to make some recommendations, move forward. Some more information is good. I was concerned about what we're gonna lose because we've done a lot of work on this up to this point. But, I guess that's just, if we had some loss, it's some loss, but it's what the public, I think, wants, and we need to honor that. I'll make the motion to consider approving the budget amendment 2025-05 to increase the fiscal year 25 budget for administration building. I'm just trying to think,
Pre-construction service.
pre-construction costs and construction management fee, or just pre-construction costs?
Well, it's architect design contract for Spicer
Yep.
and pre-construction services for Spence.
Please note that correctly in the minutes.
Okay.
And authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
Or
Change
Well,
here.
moved and supported. Is there further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. So discussion regarding the draft wage study implementation policy. I guess I'll start the discussion. I know there was a recommendation from staff to not move forward with that. I think we need to move forward. It doesn't mean it's not going to be implemented. It's not going to mean that there's not going to be some implementation that has yet to be determined. But I think in fairness to all the people that are affected by this, I don't think we can just sit on it. I think we've got the study, we paid for the study. We
We
need,
don't have the study yet.
we don't have the study.
No, sir. Tomorrow is the goal. But I know the Amy Cell Talent held, office hours late last week, on Thursday afternoon and Friday afternoon. I was not able to attend those, but I think they were attended by department heads and electeds. So given that that feedback was received as soon ago as last Friday, I'm not sure,
Okay,
that they'll be ready with the
Well,
final report,
that-
but we do not.
that's
have
beyond the
final yet.
concept. We're looking at a
Policy
policy
today,
guide
not the
the
report.
county board in the future implementation of that. And I think we need to move ahead with that policy.
It's a monster. This is a draft and it was brought as discussion. It was never intended that you would see the first version and it would get, it would get adopted the following week unless that's your desire. It's just something I promised you I would work with Amy Cell and get you a draft implementation policy before I left. Hopefully, a final study too, but this is just meant to be guidance, as you work through it. If you're happy with it, you can
I think we need time to
progress.
digest, not only
It's,
us,
it's
but
meaty.
there's a lot to it. So I think it's important that not only do we have that chance, but the new board members coming on and our new county administrator has time to digest that. I think that's good. They all need to be on the same page.
And I think I had to read it 3 times before I had a conceptual idea of what was being said. Some of the words were new to me and just being a little bit slower maybe than some of the members on the board. It took me a little bit more time to grasp some of the meetings, but
Yeah.
it'd be nice if some of that maybe could be simplified or use a different terminology.
And I think that's where I think we need someone to come in, whether it's Amy Cell or.
Well,
or
this
Can really sit down.
originated from them, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'm not sure if a final review by them, I think would be great, but I think fresh eyes on it would be best. And
Yeah.
obviously, it's just hit the packet, so
Mhm.
I haven't heard this morning was the first I'd heard feedback from department heads or electeds on it, so they need time to absorb it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't understand all the provisions on the options and all. I guess I have to read it again and maybe a couple of times more, but
Yeah.
Meaty.
it'd be nice to have some of that explained
Yes,
as
that-
we move forward
I
with
think-
the final.
I think all of us are gonna need that as board members, whether it's now or next year. We're gonna need someone to come in and explain the details of it, so we all understand exactly how this thing works.
Maybe record it.
Please, some kind of a PowerPoint presentation with examples, multiple examples of some kind, so we all thoroughly understand what we're getting into.
So I think it's a good idea to move this on for just some, again, general discussion at a regular meeting. I think we need to have a policy and
Mhm.
this is a good
It's a
start.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even if it's go back to the drawing board and simplify, that's a start.
Mhm. Let the board review.
Okay. Next item, discussion regarding American Rescue Plan Act funds. So this is one, I know we were looking at, we have to have those obligated by December 31st, even though they don't have to be spent until 2026. But delaying consideration of the bonding and final plans for whatever we're gonna do, got real concerned. Do we have other ways that we can direct this money so we don't lose it?
So we've been trying, as you know, to connect to contracts that would provide that obligation that the feds need. It's not just enough for you to do a budget amendment. You need that outside connection to spend that money. I know Director Hansen's been trying very diligently for months to get some kind of a contract with Nottawa Township on the sewer project, because without that formal agreement, there's no
Nothing.
formal obligation, right? To send that 250,000 of ARPA dollars towards the Cotter Lake Family Park Sewer Project. So so now this idea is swelling of how do we ensure we're not sending back any ARPA dollars, right? How do we make sure that we secure these by the end of the year? As you can see, I think in your packet is how much ARPA dollars left. We've got, I think, 1.6 million that is still not recorded. The bulk of that is for the HVAC project, right, at the county building. And so we had thought if we contract with Spence Brothers on construction management, maybe we could long lead item, do a contract for that and obligate the funds that way. So now that the notice of intent has been rescinded and we're not moving forward on that, there becomes a real fear that maybe some of these dollars would be not utilized and sent back. So resident Greg Schmidt came to visit me recently and asked the question of the HATS funding, like you just brought up, about when the board opted to reinstate $55,000 of HATS funding and didn't want to take it out of fund balance in the current budget. It was agreed to take it out of ARPA funds, but you can't just pay that contract out of ARPA funds, right? So we talked about unfortunate term of shell game, but that's really what it is, right? You take ARPA dollars, you apply them to an expense that's already budgeted for in the general fund that's an eligible ARPA expense, such as public safety payroll. Also, some administration payroll qualifies in that. You free up that $55,000 of payroll now covered by ARPA that was budgeted, and now the board has the ability to budget that towards the HAT expense, right? So Mr. Schmidt asked if that is a legitimate way to handle the 55,000, can't you do that to your 1.6 million that's not booked? And my thought process is if it's okay for this amount, if it's okay for any amount, right? And so that's kind of what this discussion was put on there for. So I believe, and we'll check with the auditors if it is your desire to move forward in this fashion, that I believe we can apply our remaining ARPA dollars, roughly 1.6 million, towards payroll, eligible payroll expenses. We'd be able to recognize those ARPA dollars as revenue and it brings into your fund balance, right? Just when last year when we applied the $8 million of ARPA to past public safety payroll, once you do that and book it, it becomes your fund balance now, right? You've applied that towards an eligible expense. I think it takes a leap of faith from your parks director and from your county treasurer. They're the only other ones on this list that were, to receive these funds. Once it's in your fund balance, you could still vote to give $250,000 to parks for the sewer project. It's already in their fiscal 25 budget. And you could also vote to send some to the treasurer for the foreclosure prevention program that was due to COVID. And I know we were concerned about that project and that it said 200,000, I think, and then 100,000 and how many people are actually going to need or use this. But if you go forward and recognize these ARPA dollars and get them in your fund balance, then you can provide that COVID relief as it comes. It wouldn't be, say, put $100,000 towards it and we only use 50 or something like that. So this is almost a way to right-size that program to what is gonna, what's actually proven as a need. But it takes some trust, right? Because this would be the board just simply applying those revenues and bringing it into your fund balance. I would think you'd want to commit at the same time, right? The same, at the same time, before the end of the year, probably would help your parks director, probably would help your treasurer. That if you would commit fund balance in those amounts to those projects.
Simultaneously, yeah.
Mhm.
But you still need to talk to auditors to make sure that.
We definitely want to make sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely want, if this is agreeable to you, I mean, the last action, right, is to apply the monies as here, and we're not, doesn't make sense now to apply it to an HVAC or even boardroom audio visual, right?
No.
We were sure that those things were gonna get done, and now
Uh-uh.
we have nothing to obligate us to those things by the end of the year. So I think we are, I think, getting out in front of it. We've got a couple meetings now left in December, and I think we can get this done by the end of the year.
Okay.
And I'm sure the commissioners would entertain a special meeting if needed.
Yeah.
In late December, if needed to do this, but really, that comes in the reporting, right? And that's really where the big action is. And then the board would want to commit that fund balance.
Well, you said it's kind of a leap of trust. I think
It
the
is.
board made that commitment, would stand by
I
it.
think so.
But if we don't take the action, nobody gets any benefit from those
Right.
dollars. So,
That's the tragedy.
So are there any other alternatives to consider? Either use it.
Yeah, you can use it to another eligible expense, by the end of the year.
What options do we have with regard to that?
Well, you have some buildings, I suppose, that could use, HVAC assistance or AV upgrades for this purpose even in a building, not the county building. But to me, I think your resident had a good idea, and that is,
The payroll.
if there's a way to secure these funds by the end of the year, quit horsing around and get them in your coffers.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to lose.
Don't send them back. That's a worse headline.
Almost $1.2 million that just in the HVAC and the Board of Commissioners chambers.
Exactly.
So I spent 3 nights and 4 days in my hunting blind, and only I was out of it for a total of 30 minutes. I don't have anything to show for all that effort, but I accept that I had a pad and paper and I was writing down all kinds of ideas that we could spend this money on in terms of other building HVACs and other needs. But what I came to when I was happy, when I spoke to you and you gave this idea, is that what I was coming up with was things that, we're just spending because we want it. We don't want to lose it. And it would have some benefit, but maybe not the best benefit for the county. So I think being able to redirect it appropriately and maintain it in the fund balance, it gives us some options and to use this in the wisest manner. Any other comments or? So we'll move this then forward to the work session for some discussion. And yeah, I do get stir crazy when I'm up in my 8x8 cubicle.
You shouldn't still that long.
So now we'll move to the invoice list, of which we have 2. First one's November 15. Again, I see the biggest portion of that goes out to childcare trial court contracts for treatment for our young people. We do have one drain project that was a little bit over 31,000, but I didn't see any of the $5,000 plus bills that I had any questions on. And I looked at the background bills and didn't have any questions on any of those. Watch yourself, Commissioner Emery.
No, that's pretty straightforward ones. Yep.
Then-
Nothing unusual.
We'll move on then to the November 22nd. It has even fewer the big bills. Again, the big one is 43,000, again, for day treatment care for court designated children. Other than that, we're looking at restitution payment to somebody coming out of the court action, paid by the clerk's office, Spectrum printers, election supplies for the clerk, additional manpower. I would say, I know we have a lot of the manpower for the temporary help at the recycling center. But as I drive in there, you know, I get the impression that the grounds are being kept a lot cleaner. I don't hear the complaints from the residents. So I think this is money well spent. And I do appreciate coming up with, you know, we've been doing this now for a while and it seems that it has resolved problems. And then we do have some delinquent property tax notices that are going out. So we have a payment to cover those costs. Oh, and what I do like is the correctional facility mattresses for all the beds we have, only 9,000, just a little bit over 9,000 for those. And I'm sure those are high quality because you probably can't rip them apart and might be something as you look for mattresses in the future for some of the camping cabins, you talk to the jail, see what his supply is. And because I know when I was Parks, would get them from a business in Lansing, but that's one heck of a good cost to the county. I didn't see anything on the background bills. Anybody else?
Oh, sir, did not.
Okay. With that, we'll move then to a final call to the public.
No
Hearing
one
none.
online at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Announcements. Are there any announcements?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of turkey. And I'm not gonna be in my hunting blind. My wife wouldn't give me clearance to miss the Thanksgiving meal with the family, so. With that, we'll do an adjournment
Good, sir.
at 11:37. Thank you.